Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Can I trouble you for a quarter pound of licorice also?
Trouble me, sir? Trouble me? Nothing's too much trouble in this shop, sir.
Hi guys, and welcome back to what is essentially a cardboard mock-up of the next module of the layout. Today's focus is going to be building the village shops and probably some of the surrounding items. So the reason I've chucked together this little cardboard mock-up is because I don't have the next baseboard built yet, but what I do have is this piece of MDF here, which just allows me to model this scene and get some detail done before I even get round to building the next module. So you can see here, this is a Will's Craftsman kit for the shops. I've got a scratch build of what is going to be a model vaguely based on my childhood home. And back here, we've got some 3D printed resin arches of my own design, there forming a retaining wall there. And then in the background, we've just got some scrap MDF forming where the track will go, as well as the cardboard. So as I said, the focus of today's video is really going to be starting this shop scene here, getting some detail in. I've tried to add as much detail as possible. Thus far we've got all of the detail on the exterior of the building, plus some interiors upstairs, a greenhouse at the back and a little vegetable patch. But I'll show you all of that as and when it happens. So let's go back in time to when I got this bit of MDF. I actually cut it from the surround for the TMD diorama. I decided it just didn't make sense to have that big lighting box. It made the diorama so much bigger and so much more cumbersome, so I cut this MDF out and I started forming the road just using some bits of cardboard, some MDF, and I started gluing it up in layers to add a slope onto that road towards the front of the layout.
Flashback.
You can see I glued the card on. Well, first I glued the wood on with some wood glue, as I said, the card on with some hot glue. I went along all the edges here and just stuffed as much hot glue in underneath each side as possible, which has made this nice and firm. And we obviously got wood here, wood here, wood here, and there's actually a couple of layers of card under the front as well. So yeah, I covered all the edges in hot glue to seal it in. Then I painted the whole thing with a coat of watered down wood glue, just to make it solid and basically waterproof. I then decided to go along and paint the entire bit of MDF with the same method of watered down wood glue. See, it's nice and shiny now. That should mean this is all sealed, so whatever seam I put on, whatever paint and glue and plaster I put on in the future, this shouldn't warp, hopefully, touch wood. So I think the next thing I'm going to do is actually to build the building that's going to go here, which is going to be the shops. But to make that, I'm using Will's CK18 semi-detached shops. Now, if you've not seen a Will's Craftsman kit before, let's put that out of the way. It comes as sheets, so you've got some brick sheets, and there's also some roof sheets and things like that to assemble it all, basically scratch building. But what you do get is a series of instructions, so what to glue where, and to actually form the parts that you need to glue together, you get a series of templates. There's various methods. If you really want to learn how to build these, I would go look at Hall. His channel's got a lot of good videos on how to build Will's Craftsman kits. I'm not really going to show you how I'm building it per se. I will show you the process of building it, but probably do as I say, not as I do. Okay, so once again, it's the next day, and you can see I've made a reasonable amount of progress. Just using this Will's Craftsman kit, as I said, making some alterations, so broadly speaking by the instructions, but one of the beauties of these kits is you can cut stuff to your own dimensions. So this wall here, including the bottom bit, and this front face here are just as per the design. In fact, as is this little wall here. The floor that I put in there is just 2mm black plastic card, and that is cut to this angle here. And then I used a card template, just measured and drawn on with a pencil, just a piece of 1mm card I think it was, to get this roof to match up here at the correct angle, and then to get this distance here to match up with the floor piece. So now you can see we've got a nice end wall here. It's actually this bit here is exactly the same as the other end, but you can see here this is a slightly shallower and longer angle as the wall is deeper. If we move the building out of the way, you can see I've actually put in a piece of 2mm cork here, and that's because although I did leave some extra space on the bottom of all of these walls, there's actually a couple of millimeters extra, probably about 5mm extra on each wall. When I put it in here, the doorways were still below the level of the pavement.
2 days later.
Okay, I can only apologise for the lighting and the sound of the 3D printer in the background, but I'm currently painting the brickwork. So you can see I sprayed it all with a brown. You can just see the brown left there, quite a dark one. And then I've been coming back with effectively a light orange. This is what I've just mixed up myself with some various paints. I've been painting it on and then wiping it straight off with a paper towel. You can see it's just leaving behind various different brick colours. So I'm just going to keep repeating this on all different sides, putting different shades of orange and brown on and wiping them off and leaving it, and then we'll come back and do some sort of mortar wash. Okay, so I blotched on various different oranges and browns. I then came back with some really thin sort of white grey paint. I wiped it all off, and that's left some mortar in the cracks. And then I came back with that orangey colour again, and I've just dry brushed over the top. I've just experimented as well, using now some black wash over the top, and I think that looks very, very effective. So I'll be doing that everywhere just shortly. As for the chimneys, you can see they're currently missing. I've just 3D printed some to my own specification, and those are ready to be installed probably around the same time as the roof, and then I'll get those painted and weathered to match in with the brickwork. So I'm just going to keep going around with this black wash, tying this all together, probably pack up for the evening, and then I'll keep going tomorrow. Okay, so it's the next day. We're back on the windowsill. I've also got some LEDs lighting up the scene here so you can see what's going on. So you can see, yeah, yesterday we ended up doing pretty much most of the brickwork in various shades of orange and brown. Also did a lot of the mortar lines in some white, and then we've had various black washes on top. So what I've done off camera is actually the render as well. So the way I've achieved this is, as well as the textured plastic art that comes with the kit, I put on some Vallejo cracked mud paint, spackled that on, and then I've painted white on top, followed by a black wash to highlight the detail. And you can see that shows up on the render wherever it is. Something I didn't mention earlier on, I don't believe I've shown you this yet, is I've started putting some interior in. So we've got a floor. You can see there's just some milliput closing a gap in the floor there. It's not really going to be seen. I'm going to be modelling the front 2 bedrooms up here. Then inside the shop here, we've got the floor segment that comes with the kit. So you can see there the wooden planking. And then I've glued in some plastic card to form the 2 shop interiors. You see I've set these further back than they would be, really not left much room behind here for the storeroom areas. But I'm hoping from the front it will give the illusion that the shops are actually a decent size. Then this just clicks in on top. If you get it at the perfect angle, that clicks down on top of the floor there. And it's held actually quite securely in place, just as a friction fit like that, which is quite good. So the next stage really then is going to be adding all the detail and also adding the roof. So throughout today I've started painting all the door frames and window frames and stuff, and I'll show you those shortly. As I touched on before, I've 3D printed my own chimneys. These still need a lot of painting work. They've just got a base coat and a lighter orange coat on for now. But hopefully these will glue into place on the top here and should look quite effective. There's obviously 3 of those to go on. What I'm currently working on is forming the roof. Now I'm hoping the roof will be a removable section, at least temporarily, so I can put the interior detail in. So I've started cutting a cardboard template. Obviously I can't use the template that came with the kit because my building is a completely different shape. So I've just done this little cardboard template. Then what I'm going to do is start cutting this out of the slate plasticard and see what I can get to fit. Okay, so some time has passed and I've got the roof cut out, the wheels plasticard there. At the moment it is removable, just like this. See, we've got the various angles going on, and it goes back in like this. I have got the chimneys glued in now. At the moment they don't quite match in with the rest of the walls. They're a slightly different shade of orange, but I think what I'll do is I'll leave it until the final weathering stage to actually get those blended in when I know what I'm doing with the rest of the walls. Something else I've done, you can see we've got these wires coming out the side here. There's actually 4 wires, so we have a ground and 3 other wires terminated with these crimps here. There's an idea I've taken from Miniature Wonderland over in Germany, is to have all the lights in the buildings, or various lights within each building, controllable by the computer, so it can automatically turn stuff on and off, or I can put it on timers and things like that. So this is one of the methods I'm going to use, is splitting each light up onto a cable. So we've got 3 wires here. We're going to have the shop lighting will be on one circuit. Any house lighting, so the upstairs bedrooms perhaps, and maybe some of the kitchens and things at the rear on another wire. And then a 3rd wire here, in case I want to light up. There will be a billboard on this side of the building, just in case I want to put some lamps across the top. That might look quite nice. So we've got ground plus 3 wires, and they just come inside here. If I prise the building off its base, pull out the cable here, they come inside just a bit of strip board. You can see connections here, and that's hot glued in place. You can see already we've got some very fine wires. Not sure if the camera's picking those up there. I've actually already just tacked in some micro LEDs onto the inside there, and those will be for the downstairs shop lighting. So I think what I'm going to do next is start installing all the windows and details and bits around here. I can't really finish the roof off, I don't think, until I've got the inside on that building. I'm not sure how I'm going to do that yet. Okay, so it's time to add some interiors to the inside of the upstairs floors. So you can see what I've done here is I've got some card. I think this is 1.5mm card. I've just hot glued it together in a shape that will fit one of the upstairs bedrooms. And now I've printed out the scale scenes interiors. So we've got a mix of like floors, carpets, wall coverings, we've got bookcases, that sort of thing. I think there's even some furniture in here, but I'm thinking of 3D printing the furniture. So what I'm going to do, excuse my voice, I do have a little bit of a cold. What I'm going to do is glue in the wallpaper, the flooring, maybe some accessories like a bookshelf or something. And then I might 3D print a bed to go in here, maybe put a figure in. Then I can glue this into the building, and then when it's lit up at night, you'll be able to sit inside and it should look quite effective. Okay, so it's the next day. You can see there's a lot of progress I've not shown you yet on the camera. But first things first, I got those interiors in. So you can see the card frame there, and we've got a bed, a wardrobe, a little figure tucking the sheets into the bed, bedside table. And then in the other room as well, we've also just got a bed, a bookshelf, and a fireplace. So yeah, the beds was 3D printed, along with all the furniture in this room were 3D printed. The bed in here though is just made with plasticard and milliput. I just wanted to prove a point that you can do this sort of fine scale work with more old-fashioned techniques. If I show you some images that I've taken of the rooms, you can see in much more detail. They do look quite nice. I've put an overhead light in above this room, and in here there's no overhead light, but I have put an LED in the fireplace, and that just gently glows and looks quite nice. So the progress I've made and not shown you yet, there's some quite obvious things. So obviously all the windows and doors are in, these signs are in. I've yet to print graphics to go on them. This one temporarily has post office painted on it, but I will be printing proper graphics to go on both of those signs. Over here though, we've got some billboards. You can see we've got the new face of British Railways, or British Rail, as it changed to in 1965. This is a poster I found from the period, just showing the change. Over here then we've got James Bond, You Only Live Twice, which is in 1967, so that's just a poster from the time to sort of ground the era of the layout. Coming around the back then, not too many changes. You just see all the windows are in and the doors are in. Obviously we've got this painted and weathered render at the back. Then inside, just have a quick look. You can see we've just got all of these wires. I've put some hot glue over the circuitry just to make sure it's all held in place and can't fall apart. So yeah, I'm really happy with this so far. And it's now going to be time to add the roof. So as I've shown you before, the roof is already made up. It just needs to be glued into place and trimmed to fit. Then we can add fascia boards, guttering, that sort of thing. Then that will be the bulk of the building done. Okay, so the roof is glued on. Before I glued it on, really important you sand flats in the ridges. This will help add the ridge tiles, and I'll show you that in just a second. I then put a massive bead of hot glue along the internal wall that I put in here. Pressed the roof down and got it nice and flat. And I've just been round under all of the edges and used liquid cement to bond the roof on fully on all sides. So that's why it's really important to get the interior in first, because now this roof is not going anywhere. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to tidy up all the edges a little bit. Some of them might need trimming off a little. Where I've got these flats sanded, you just glue on the ridge stones. So you can get these in the Wills Craftsman kits, or I think you can buy them individually as well from Wills, and they just sit on where you've sanded flat. They'll get glued on like that, and I'll do that on both roofs. Then what I'm thinking of doing is gluing some paper in around the chimneys and around the join in the back of the roof here to make some sort of LED flashing, and I'll show you how it goes in just a moment. Okay, so it's the next day and I've got the roof fully on. So you can see we've got all the capping stones put in as from the Wills kit. Got some boards along the eaves here. Then all the guttering. This got quite complex with cutting out the bits and bobs from the Wills kit to form some nice gutters. I know this is not entirely realistic here. I might end up redoing that in the future. It comes down quite far before it then goes in. Got a similar deal on the front there, just chopping and changing the Wills gutters to fit. Then when it comes to the LED flashing on the roof, here I started off using just A4 paper, cut down and super glued on, and then a couple of layers of super glue soaked in to make it go solid. That worked quite well, but then when it came to these chimneys, see I ended up using masking tape, because that meant it could stick, and then I could cut it into an exact shape that I wanted. And then I used the same trick of just soaking it in super glue. See, I still need to repaint these chimneys to match the walls, but I'll do that in the future. So yeah, if I show you some photos, some close-ups, you can see those chimneys are looking quite good as well. So the next thing to do really then is going to be to paint all this. So I'm going to start with just giving the roof a general paint, come back and paint all the flashing, all the barge boards, all of the different downpipes and guttering, and then I'll show you what it looks like. Then I'll give it a final weather and tidy up, and then it'll be time to start moving on to stuff like the road, possibly pushing back towards the garden here, and then of course this big empty space here. It's going to be a model of my old house as well. Okay, so it's received a heck of a lot of weathering. We've used some dark washes, a few different weathering powders. I used a black, a grey and an earth colour, and then a few coats of matte varnish over the top as well. Obviously being careful to mask off the windows before I matte varnished. And I think that has come out quite well after painting. Just flung the Morris Minor van off there. But yeah, I'm really chuffed with this. I'm glad I went through all the effort to do the flashing around the chimneys and the roof. I think that's actually come out quite well. And I think overall it does look quite good. Okay, so the next thing to go in is going to be the pavement. You can see I've just cleared my desk here. I've removed my computer monitor to get some room to show you guys what's going on. So I was strongly considering 3D printing this. I could get a lot more detail in and it'd be much easier for me. But I remember before I owned my resin printer, which really wasn't long ago, I found nothing more annoying than watching a tutorial and all someone did was 3D print something and paint it. So this comes with the Wills kit. I've actually already cut this to shape, so it should fit quite neatly there. I used a paper template and then just cut out some pieces that should just about fit within the lines that I'd drawn previously, or thereabouts. So you can see that's already changing the scene here. I've got one more piece. The idea is, so this is going to be a main road, and also this is the road coming off, go down the houses, so there we go. Something else that comes with the kit are these fences. Now I've just glued these up. These need a lot of painting and a lot of work. If I just prop that up there, you're already starting to get an idea of what I'm going for. Obviously there'll be another fence in the back garden there, you can't really see around the back, but... And then finally, this fence is going to be coming along somewhere around here. I'm not going to get that to stand up, am I? But there'll be a fence there. So you can see we're already starting to build up a scene now around these shops. And bedding the scene in really does make it look more realistic. I will be using some 3D printed bits and bobs. This is a post box I 3D printed. And I do have somewhere a bike as well. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to glue all these pieces in. I'm going to work out how I'm going to paint this road. And I'm going to fill in all these gaps using some modelling compound and scribe in both the curbstones along paving slabs and this entire section of pavement here I want to scribe in to modelling compound. That'll allow me to get some sort of dropped curb in here, as if there's a walkway along here. Okay, so having glued those in, I used Milliput. This is just the yellow version. Makes absolutely no difference as I'm going to paint it. So yeah, I just stuffed it in along the edges. I then trimmed it with a sharp knife to get it to the shape I wanted. Same thing along here, I just sort of smushed it in all flat, got it level with my finger. If you just wet your finger, you can control it quite a bit. And then I simply just scribed the necessary shape I wanted into it. When it comes to this corner, you can see I've added a dropped curb, so it actually slopes down in two directions. I've just test fit the building back in, and it does fit. It doesn't foul on this corner, so that's all good. And you can see just coming along the end here, I've also filled in this little gap here. Okay, so I did make some attempts to film the painting process, but in the end I used so many different colours and so many re-attempts at painting this. I thought I'd just show you the afterwards. So, yeah, basically I started with a grey coat on here and a sort of stone colour on the pavements. A few different retries trying to get colours I was happy with. I then followed up with some black washes, some weathering powders, so mixes of greys, and you can see some brown in here, some burnt umber weathering powder on both the pavement and on the road, and also getting these black streaks just with weathering powder to try and show you where the lanes were. I've also painted the front edge here black. I need to repaint that actually because I did get some grey paint on the front of it there. But yeah, overall I'm quite happy with the effect. I put some matte varnish on just to hold it all in. But I will be coming back, I think, with a better matte varnish because this matte varnish has come out kind of satin. It does have a little bit of a sheen to it. But if I buy some nicer stuff, the Vallejo matte varnish is actually quite good. So I'll buy some of that and put it on. So the next thing to do, I think, will be to paint some road markings. I think I'll do that today. Looking at the 60s, not too many road markings, but I do have some screenshots of both Dorley and Madeley High Street. So the precursors to Telford, which is roughly where this layout's based, where I grew up, but really not too precise. But basing vaguely on these photos of Madeley and Dorley, I'm going to probably add a narrow dash line along the middle and then a single thick dash line across here for a giveaway line, just the bare minimum necessary. I could also get away with no road markings at all for the 60s, but I'm thinking as this is the late 60s, there probably would be at least a double line down the middle, as this will also just be a main road that carries on that way underneath the railway bridge and off the layout eventually when I build it. Okay, so I got those lines painted. You see all I did was I scribed a line along the middle of the road using some digital calipers. I then masked it all up with masking tape, gave it a quick coat of matte varnish. I think, in fact, I did about 2 coats of matte varnish just over the tape, and that helped stop bleeding underneath the tape. and then I peeled the tape off. You can see just there it looks almost like the paint's bled, but it's actually not. That's where the masking tape was so stuck. Now what I'm going to do, use a little bit of weathering pigments. I've also got some black as well, and that'll tone those lines down. Okay, so it's a few days later, and you can see I weathered down those road lines and the road itself using a mix of weathering powders, paints, that sort of thing. And I've also started to add some detail. So you can see I've put signs on the shops. I've gone for H.W. Smythe General Stores. That's a play on words on W.H. Smith's, if you hadn't noticed. Then we've got the post office and news agents, simply called the post office and news agent. And then we've also got some street signs there. So we've got Derby Road, which is actually a road going down into Ironbridge Gorge, or at the bottom of Ironbridge Gorge, so it's vagued on the area. And then the Lane, which was what we always used to call the road that my house was on. Also then, we've got this Morris Minor van. I've just given that a coat of matte varnish, toned it down quite a bit. And I've also given it some weathering washes and weathering powders, and that looks quite good. In the background then, we've got a 3D printed post box, as well as a 3D printed bike. It's actually more of a European bike, but it looks quite good. So I'm going to come back now and add some more detail. It's actually the weekend and I didn't have any work, and I couldn't go see my other half, she's busy. The trains were bad for me to go see my parents. So what I thought I'd do is go to a model shop. I ended up going to the gaugemaster shop in Ford, which actually has quite a lot going on. There's obviously all of the shop items themselves, quite a lot of European imports, which surprised me. But there's also some little dioramas and test tracks and those sorts of things, which were quite interesting. I was going to do some sort of unboxing as to what I bought there, but me being me, I was too keen and I've unboxed loads of it already. But what I did buy, I got a street lamp to go on this road, as well as some bits and bobs of detail to go in the back garden, and a few figures. So I'm going to install those one by one, and then I'll show you what I've got. Okay, so I'm now turning my attention to the back garden. You can see I'm going to put some sort of courtyard area in here using bricks as the base. It's not uncommon in the houses I've seen around the village, including my old house, to have bricks as almost cobblestones. So this is just some leftover sheet from the house. So we're going to have this sort of hard standing area here, and then this path is going to scoot up here to this flower bed. Now you can see here I'm trying a different technique to what I've used before. This is the Vallejo thick mud paint. So I'm going to lay all this on, see how it dries, paint it up, and then I can put my vegetables in there. Just in this gap here then, along here, I'm going to put a Will's greenhouse kit. I'm just gluing and painting that up at the moment, and I'll show you that once it's pretty much done. And then also I do need to put some steps down here from the gate into the back garden. Where this man is here, just lying down on his face, I'm just going to have some sort of bench and a little patch of grass here as well. Then all along here will be a big set of bushes and shrubs and trees separating this house from the next one. Okay, so if we look in the garden here, you can see I completed that Will's greenhouse there. That's just a standalone kit you can get from Will's. Needs some guttering adding, but I'll do that at a future date. Inside you can see I've added some tomato plants. I believe those are from Fowler. They're actually slightly overscale, but I'm just saying there must be something in the soil leading to producing them at such a size. Just coming along in front then, we've got a row of potted plants. Those are from gaugemaster, and they don't look too bad. I gave those a little bit of a weather with some weathering powders. Coming up to this flower bed here then, we've got a load of fallow vegetables here, as well as some pumpkins in a pumpkin patch. And then here, that's just one of those tomato plants, but I stripped off the tomatoes and gave it all a coat of matte varnish. I've weathered everything down a little bit with an oil wash, and it looks quite good. I also repainted the colour of the soil just a little bit darker. Zooming out a bit, you can see there is still quite a lot to do. I need to blend in the bottom of this fence here, where the glue is, and obviously all along here will be a very large hedgerow, and that will cover the end of the fence and the hot glue there. Obviously I need to add some static grass in this garden, and then also this garden at the back here has absolutely nothing in it, and that will all be done in the future. Looking the other way then, you can see I've started to make some progress on the model of my childhood home. This will be the subject of a future video, so I won't spoil it too much now. I've not filmed too much of the process thus far, as it's been exactly the same as the Craftsman kit, except it's just plain plastic guard and plain slate roof sheets that I purchased, not as part of a kit. But when I come down to the windows and doors, that will be 3D printed, chimneys 3D printed, all that sort of stuff. And I'll be doing the full interiors and some different lighting methods in here. So I'll show you that in a future video. The board on itself is actually an extension I've added on top of the other bit of MDF, just to give a little bit more space for the garden, and there'll be a really high hedgerow and trees behind here, protecting it from the main line. So I hope you've enjoyed watching this video. Look out for some videos in the future. It's coming up to Christmas now, so I will be visiting my parents, so I'll have access to the viaduct module, so I'll probably do some work on that. I might well get round to building the next baseboard as well, but I'm not sure what I'll be up to over the Christmas period. But stand by though, I will be adding more detail. I've already got some stuff 3D printed to go along here, some bins and things. I need to do interiors for the shops, so all that will be happening in the coming months. So thank you very, very much for watching, and thank you again for subscribing to all my subscribers. It's an insane number that I've reached now, so yeah, just thank you very, very much, and I look forward to seeing you next time.